I am 18 years old, and I am a student living away from my parents' home. I want to tell you a story that happened this summer. When I remember it, I feel horror and a strange chill runs down my spine. The events took place in the summer, in July, when the heat had not yet receded, but by evening, it was pleasantly cool outside. The difference in atmosphere between daytime and evening was palpable. That evening, I was chatting with a friend on a social networking site, watching various YouTube videos. There were freshly made sandwiches nearby, and my private messages were overflowing with messages from my friend. A video of my favorite blogger was playing on the screen. Something was missing to create the perfect atmosphere, and it was warm tea. Deciding it wasn't hard to fix that, I alerted my friends and headed to the kitchen. There, I put a kettle of water on the cooker to boil the water. While it heated up, I stared out the window. It was getting dark outside, and it was quiet all around. After a while, the kettle let me know that the water was boiling. I made some tea, put a few lumps of sugar in a cup, and left it on the windowsill to cool down. Not wanting to go into the stuffy room, I decided to wait for the drink to cool, and in the meantime, pay attention to the scenery outside the window, the streets of the city devoid of people. A minute or two passed, and a strange silhouette appeared on the horizon. A tall man of strange appearance, about 2 meters tall, maybe even taller. His head was shaved naked, wearing a white shirt with patches of red paint on the collar. His wide old belt and wide trousers added to the mystique. He walked slowly, whistling some strange tune, and suddenly slowed down, staring out the first floor window. By the way, I live on the first floor, but the strange man stopped, as if frozen, and began to stare intently at the windows. I felt uneasy in my soul. There was too much mystery in this moment. What normal person would think of looking into other people's windows at night? Realizing that I didn't want to look at it for long, I decided to get some more hot tea and hurriedly headed to my room. I had already accumulated more than 20 messages in my private messages, and I promptly shared with my friend what had happened to this strange man. However, he did not believe my story and asked me to at least take a picture of the stranger. Of course, I refused, finding excuses, although, truth be told, I just didn't want to run into him again. The topic quickly faded into the shadows of the heated debate we were having, discussing the latest news. It had long since fallen into total darkness outside. The clock was showing 42 minutes past the first hour, but I had no desire to step outside the world of the internet. My friend, who had just warned me of his intentions to take a shower and then go to sleep, had decided to do the same, because tomorrow he was expected to rise early and leave for work issues. Of course, sitting alone seemed increasingly tedious, but as sleep was not coming, I made the decision to take another look at the world of YouTube videos. Perhaps a well-deserved nap would come after that. But just as I started watching the blogger's 15-minute-long video, a message from a friend came to me. "Dude, you won't believe what I just saw." Turned on the water in the bathtub, decided to wait for it to fill up. It was hot, so I opened the window, looked outside, and there, a man, ordinary looking, but there was something strange about him. I can't even say exactly what it was. He was walking, humming some song, and then suddenly, he stopped near my house. He stared at the windows of the ground floor, just staring for about 5 minutes. Then he looked at the first floor. I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. And then he looked through my windows, right at me. That's when my drink cup even froze in my hand, and a smirk appeared on his face. And it wasn't just a smile, it was something incredibly creepy. I can't even tell you how scared I was. And suddenly, he made some inhuman sound, and his face maybe even turned black, though that could have been my imagination. Then I felt something wet under my feet. It turned out the bathtub had overflowed. I went to turn off the water, and then I went back to the kitchen and he was gone. "Maybe I just imagined it," I replied. "Yes, I think I mentioned him to you, but you didn't want to believe it. If you drank less, your imagination wouldn't run so wild. Although, I agree, he did seem strange, but we should look at the world objectively. Perhaps this husband just decided to go for a walk. Maybe he was intoxicated, and therefore looked into other people's windows. Who knows? Maybe he was looking for someone to shelter him. Wait, there's a knock on the door. My friend texted me, then added, "Weird, who could possibly come at this hour?" Well, okay, I'll go open it. I'll text you right after, and I'm going to go take a bath after all. I continued watching the video, ignoring the fact that 40 minutes had passed since his last message. It didn't bother me much, I thought. Maybe the neighbors had dropped by, because he'd overflowed the bathtub while he was staring at the man. It's quite possible he just forgot to sign off and left. I didn't see anything strange about it at the time, and I continued to spend time on the internet. A couple of hours later, I went to bed because I had to get up early for school the next day. The next day flew by pretty quickly. I wanted to go to my friend's house, who, by the way, lives opposite my house. But then I remembered that he was away because of work, so he probably wouldn't be home. I didn't call him either, so as not to bother him. By evening, he was still not on social media, even though he was supposed to be back no later than 5 p.m. To be honest, I started to feel some anxiety, but quickly calmed myself down with the thought that he decided to visit his girlfriend or something like that. Around 11:53 p.m., I went to the kitchen. The thirst was unbearable. He poured himself some cool water from a carafe and started drinking, looking out the window. Suddenly, the same man appeared in the street again. He was dressed the same as last time, singing the same strange tune. Again, he stopped outside my house and started looking through the ground floor windows with the same frozen face. He looked straight into my eyes, and a smirk full of malevolence appeared on his face. I was overcome with such a terrible jolt that I almost choked on my water. Then his mouth opened so wide that he seemed to be trying to tear the world apart with his scream. That scream, my God, I'd never heard anything so horrible. At this moment, it seemed to me that his face was becoming even darker, as if absorbing the light. His skin even sagged a lot, as if it couldn't stay on his skull. The glass fell out of my hands, and I ran to my room, barely containing my tremors. At this point, it must have been about 15 minutes. I could neither recover nor calm down. I had already decided to go to bed when suddenly there was a hard and loud knocking on the door. The sound was so strong that it sounded like someone on the other side of the door was trying to break it down. I sat in complete paralysis, not daring to even move. The knocking continued for at least half an hour, and I could do nothing but sit and wait. Then suddenly, it went quiet. I passed out and did not come to my senses until 1 p.m. the next day. It wasn't clear to me what had happened, but what I didn't remember was probably for the best. After a few days, the memories began to fade from my memory, and I decided to put it down to the fact that it was just fatigue and an illusion caused by overexertion. That's what I thought until I received the terrible news of my friend's death. His terrible death, which I refused to believe. He was found hanging in the kitchen, right in front of the window. His head was shaved bald, as if the barber had done his job perfectly. On the collar of his shirt, which he was going to wear to work, there were traces of blood from his slit throat. My friend's mother told me about it because we were close enough. From the moment I learnt of his death, it became clear to me who was behind it all. Whether he was a maniac or some otherworldly force that took the form of a human being, I didn't know. But since then, I have never looked out the window at night again, and I always cover them with curtains. That experience taught me that darkness can hide terrible secrets that are better not to know.